All right, alofa lava, and welcome into another episode of the 135 Footy Show, proudly brought to you by the WesWes Network. You can go check out our podcast at all streaming platforms. You can go check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and also at the website www.weswesnet.com. You'll find us in all our other podcasts. On the website, you'll be able to check out the blog and articles from the team there as well. Let's welcome in the Usos. Bobby, how are you, bro?
Yeah, good, bro. Good to be back on another potty, brother. Sad result for all the Warriors fans out there. But you know, the Panthers team were just too strong. But it's good to be back to have a chat, talk about more league, and looking forward to the couple of weeks ahead. Because there's still more league that's due to come, and it's all looking good. So yeah, good to be back, bro.
Love it, bro. Love the enthusiasm. I was hoping Stace would return. We joked about it being the last episode, so no, we are back, and so thanks to everything jumping in, bro. And very happy, Payne. How are you there, man?
Hello, boys. Malo Tans, Bobby. Malo Lava so for. Yeah, I'm Seki, bro. It's commiserations to the Warriors and all the Wild supporters. But yeah, it was still a great weekend of games, man. Some that went down to the wire, like the mighty Bronx from the dead, just to edge out the Raiders, and sets up for another mean round of games in the NRL Eagles.
Man, a real mean round. So the first preliminary finals, elimination final, 8 becomes 6. Yeah, before we go into review those games, let's jump straight into our awards. I'll come back to you, Si. Payne, let's start with your Kaea Kele from the weekend.
Usually knock you fellas for having a gripe at the officials, but I'm gonna have a turn this week and nominate Ashley Klein for his performance on the weekend. I thought it was quite a few head scratches there, in amongst. I think at halftime it was something like 7-1 penalty count in the Raiders' favor. I'm happy when they went upstairs and took it out of his hands. The crucial calls was made and the right calls were made. But even as a Broncos supporter, the sympathy of Walsh, which are probably if you look at it neutral, he was lucky to stay on for the rest of the game, headbutt. But really, if you look at it, it wasn't that serious. His Skamai, it wasn't hard out flying headbutt ones, but so I thought that warranted a 10. But Hudson Young, if you're a Raiders supporter, you'd be like, man, why did he get 10? So I thought Broncos were lucky in that regard. The Carrigan one was harsh, man, because on some of the other angles didn't look like it was head on shoulder. So yeah, bro, I just thought that he had too much of the influence on the game, and just some of the easy piggyback 6 agains he was going to the Raiders. It was obvious to me that there was some kind of conspiracy against the Bronx here.
Yeah, there were some. Yeah, I'm glad you can see it from the point of view of the Raiders. It'd be interesting if those scores didn't go your way. Your tune against Ashley Klein was, yeah, it was very obvious. Like, I don't know why Hudson got anything. Bobby, your Kaea Kele for the weekend?
Yeah, Kaea Kele for me is from the Wise game, and I'll be honest. Like, I thought we were in the game, but then there were a couple of calls that sort of went against us, and they were controversial because if you look at them, it could have gone either way, but instead it went in favor of the Panthers. And man, when you're a team like the Panthers, they don't need piggybacks. They don't need these controversial calls to go their way. One was the momentum call of that try that what's his name scored, Schneider, the momentum try, and the other one was the forward pass later on in the half that then resulted in, I think it was a total try. When you're playing a team like the Panthers, you want everything. You need everything to go your way. Every call needs to be, and you need, those are the things that you can control. You can't control the ref. You can't control calls that don't get made against you. So the Panthers don't need those kinds of calls to go their way because they're already such a talented, stacked, competitive team. And I thought that kind of ruined the game for me. The Panthers still outplayed the Warriors in parts, and so I don't know if the boys had it in them really to get over the Panthers when they got on a roll. There was that try, I think it was the total try or the McLean try. I can't recall, but there was so much going on. Like Eyez passes, then a kick, and then it sort of bounced up, and then they score that try in the corner.
Yeah.
Like you make your own luck, and when you're a team as good, well-oiled machine as the Panthers are, man, that was a tough try to take as a Warriors fan because it looked like we were in touching distance, like 4 points away from them, and then that was the try that kind of broke the camel's back because we were then looking at the clock. It was like 10 minutes. That was the McLean try, and then To'o scored, and it was like, we need 3 converted tries, and I was looking up at the scoreboard, 6 minutes, 3 seconds. And I was thinking,
and it was the bounce of the ball. Man,
yeah, it was the bounce of the ball. It was.
I didn't even know if he cued that because of that win. I think maybe it just got held up by the wind, and
there was like so many things that could have gone wrong in that whole phase of play, like for the Panthers. But everything went right, man. Like they kicked it. I was watching it live, and I was thinking, no way, man. Somebody tackle that guy. And then they were just doing these Eyez passes and then the Eyez kick. And then they scored off the back of it. Credit to the Panthers, man. Like I don't think they would have expected the score at halftime to be 6-2. Like they probably came with the intention of piling on a shitload of points early. But man, credit to the Warriors. They really held out in that regard and kept them, to that one try in the first half. So Kaea Kele, not really the ref, but those decisions that were made during the game kind of changed the course of the game in favor of the Panthers. And like I said, they're a team that are stacked full of talent. They don't need those kind of, handouts, man. But a team like the Warriors, we need those handouts, bro. We need the bounce of the ball. We need the rub of the green. To go away, and it just felt like, oh man, is this another one of those games where the Warriors lose and then there's controversial shit that happens during the game? Like, it's just like that flipping forward knock on during that Dimitrik jumping up to get the ball,
Yes.
Controversial. It's like, oh, was it forward? Did it knock on? And this was another one of those games because it's like, was the ball dead? And then he promoted it again. And people are like, oh, momentum. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I thought the ball was dead. And then had he slid across the line with his arm still on the ground, momentum because he landed here and slid across. But because he landed here and then went like this, I was like, that is dead set in my mind, double movement. But it changed the course of the game for me. Like the Panthers were ahead. And they just got more and more confident after that. And, it's hard enough to beat the Panthers, but to try and beat them when they're that confident. Yeah, so Kaea Kele for me was those 2 calls that went against the Warriors. And I thought it ruined what was otherwise a really good contest before those decisions were made.
Yeah, my Kaea Kele goes to the Raiders. Just their... Like that was an awesome game, a tough game, but they had chances. Like I think the headlines are wrong the way they're saying they got robbed twice. The decisions were right, but they had the chance. Like they had the ball in those last 2 minutes, just kind of like play it out. They're doing those dumbass just trying to protect their 2 point lead because they just got shell shocked by Walsh in the second half, and they was like, yeah. So my Kaea Kele goes to like a team that had so much positivity, they know they can put on points, and then close up camp. I'm like, guys, like they there. So I think they'll bounce back, but yeah, Kaea Kele, the way they kind of try to close that game out and playing scared, like that positivity that you've seen from Canberra all year. And then they look scared, like just the way they're running and trying to jog that ball up and kill time. Like, guys, you got a whole 2 minutes. They're gonna get the ball back, and so yeah, when Walsh, went for that drop goal, that's on them. Like, yeah, they should have been able to wrap that up. So I think they'll be better for it. Probably a good time for Ricky to help these young guys learn these hard lessons. But yeah, that's my Kaea Kele to Ricky and his Raiders. Let's go look at some of the good stuff. I'll come straight back to you, Bobby, with your all eyes.
All eyes for me was that Broncos Raiders game. Like watching the Panthers Warriors game, you knew it was a final because the Warriors, that's my team. But that Canberra Broncos game was such a spectacle. Like roller coaster of emotions, flipping, Simon and John must have been going, shit, when the Raiders were ahead, and then Walsh comes back and just snatches victory from the jaws of defeat. Like, I was watching that and I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's having a diamonds game, man. He can be rocks, he can be diamonds, but he was definitely diamonds when he came back from that sin binning. And it was funny because we might argue that Hudson Young shouldn't have been sent off for the 10 minutes. But in the time that he was off the field, Canberra scored 2 tries. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So it was, that whole thing was kind of nullified. And it was such a bizarre game because there was a time where it was 12-11 during that when the Broncos had 2 people sin bin. And man, it was a really cool game to watch. And I think I commented on the chat, I was like, man, it's a good game. Not because I support either or, but just the way that the momentum shifts in that game. It was all Raiders and then it was all Broncos and then the drama right at the end. So because the time was finished, like the full time had elapsed, and the penalty on Reece Walsh, because he was going for a drop goal, the penalty was 10 meters in front of the post. So I was like, wow.
That's the thing.
I was like, what? Is that why they caught it? Like, I thought it would be a penalty where he got hit. But because it wasn't just a normal kick, he was going for a field goal. And so the penalty was right out in front. I was thinking, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And man, Ricky Stewart jumping up for joy, hugging all his players at the end of regular full time, and then jumping up again, thinking that they had scored at the end with Fogarty. But like you said, bro, they were the right calls. Like, yes, it was a penalty for the contact on Reece Walsh, and yes, it was a knock on from old Jed Stewart. Poor bastard. You're right, doesn't do jack all game, but crucial knock on.
I thought he was the hero. I was like, nothing, but he gotta come and save the game for that.
You know what? And then Ben Hunt, who hasn't been doing jack shit all game, is all of a sudden like this hero with the field goal right at the death. So I was thinking, suddenly you couldn't have written a script like that. Me and Caleb thought that when the Raiders kicked off, we thought he was going to knock it on. Like when they kicked off, I was like, oh my gosh, it's 2015 again. And it went straight to him, and then he caught it. And Caleb was like, oh, I thought he was going to knock on. I was like, man, that would have been poetic, wouldn't it? It would have been poetic. But he's
saving that for the GF. He's saving that one.
So for me, all eyes was just the spectacle that was the Raiders and Broncos game. Like it was a really cool arm wrestle, and I know all the Raiders fans that were there on the day and that were watching the game thought that they had that game in the bag, but far out. The way that the Broncos came back was amazing. And you're right, man. Like the Raiders just shut up shop and they just didn't know what to do. Like Reece was the man. Reece Walsh was the man. So all eyes was that Raiders and Broncos game for me.
Payne, you're all eyes, man. Must be plenty for you to choose from.
Yeah, Sully, I totally agree with Bobby. What an awesome spectacle it is, and mine naturally comes from that game, man. Reece Walsh, we kind of had it all, eh? It was Matas and diamonds, eh, bro? But I thought his 15 minutes after that sin binning and just the way he went off. So we've been knocking him all year for his shit. Some of his shit performances, but man, when he went off, I thought to myself, bro, this guy better make up for it when he comes back on, eh? Just to have the audacity to Kui Lima play up to the crowd. But bro, when he came back on, boom, scored the next try. So I thought his first half was, not that it was quiet, but I really like the Reece Walsh at the moment when he's like following up and around the ruck. If he can run off Payne Haas and Carrigan a lot more, man, he'll be way more dangerous. We're seeing like a Reece Walsh that doesn't always just hang out the back and wait for the first receiver to find him. Man, he's going to dummy out the second try after he came back on. He hit, I think it was Karapani flat face ball, got him over the line on that left hand corner. So he's really taking on that first receiver, especially down on short sides. And yeah, bro, just that 15 minutes, and then it was actually his goal kicking kind of let us down, because if you got a couple of those, we're in for the money. But it was such an awesome effort, especially from the forwards in the extra time, just to hold them off, because you mentioned it, Eitans, the Kaea Kele. I thought Fogarty had a few chances to ice it with a drop goal, but they didn't even go to him. And to be honest with you, it required that milking old fucking Waifoi that touchdown. Even the kick was close, but all you need is just to have make one contact with the kicker, and it's a penalty all day. And he kicks over the penalty to tie it up, and then Ben Hunt did the rest. But I just thought his attitude to come back on the field, and it just shows the class he had. That 10-15 minute stint after he opened them up, they that Tamale side, bro, they got peppering on that right hand side from Walsh in that second half when he came on his blitz, eh? So all eyes on me. Hopefully he can take this form to the GF. Reece Walsh.
Yeah, real hard to look past them. I was trying to go for someone else, knowing that one of them Reece Walsh. Man, yeah, he is something. Like, at this level, especially in these real tight games, to attack a game like that and do it that way, because you see the class of Cleary. He knows how to, that game management, kicking the ball, getting his team in the right spaces. But being able to do what Reece Walsh does, like, just move the team like that by running it, is amazing. Like, yeah, so yeah, real hard to look past him. I went with Ronaldo Molitalo with a double, but just his energy, I think that really helped the Sharks kind of lift, especially against the Roosters team. They were up for that. And there's Toko on the other side, the couple of takes that Tione took, out of the air to beat the ball on the other side. But yeah, just his energy, especially at the beginning, when he did that hit on Toya, got him to force the knock on. And then after that, the playing Nwanganitawase scores him. He does this goosey on him and gets around him. But just his energy to still stay positive and just being him, like, I think that's the Sharks. I think people, being kind of quiet.
That was a good battle, him and Nwanganitawase.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and man, Marky Mark looked like he was going to have another one of those nights. So wasn't to be. So yeah, in a winning team, I went with Ronaldo as my all eyes. Nice boys, nice little awards there. I guess there's not much news. The finals is probably the focus. So before we get into some of those games, we'll wrap up the season for the boys, the Wars and the Roosters. Coming out of the headlines, talking about Rust and Diamonds old Rictor Radley's texts are coming now. Daily Telegraph posted them up as well. Just conversations between him and Brandon Smith. They're all from that golf day, kind of just doesn't look good, and so it's come out now. So I guess it's, again, nothing like saying they've done it, but essentially, I don't know if you guys have seen the headline or the text messages. So Victor's asking Brandon, "Hey mate, do you know anyone up in the Goldie who can score us an 8-ball?" And then he goes, "Oh yeah, this is the guy's address. I'll get the number." So it's got all those kind of details. Then he must get the number, and then later on it kind of confirms, "Yeah, cheers, man. He'll have something for you." So it's kind of like, yeah, it's just a couple guys scoring. But I guess there's all of the investigations. But where do you guys sit with it? Like, these are guys are meant to be. Again, it's nothing to do with the on field, but they are role models, like it or not. But yeah, everyone's got a vice. Yeah, I guess it's just so hard. The fact that it's like blowing, like they can get these records, get these, still going through the court. I didn't even know how that was even being recorded like that. When it's an active court case. How are they even talking or commenting on that? But we were laughing when he first got stopped, when he was going through to go play the Titans at that time, when he was up there with the Rabbit. But yeah, your guys' thoughts on this? Same.
That's good.
Actually, bro, I think it's much ado about nothing, really. I don't think there's enough evidence there to charge Rictor Radley or Brandon Smith anything, for that matter. This is a matter for this fella that obviously they got him in custody and have had access to his Kirifongi, and it's dragged in every one of his contacts, one of them being Brandon Smith. But it wasn't a big deal for the Bunnies to do any disciplinary action against Brandon Smith. So I do know it's interesting because at the Roosters, they've been quite, there are people who have said that they've been quite strong in their stance. That's why they've kind of people have jumped to the conclusion, some of the players that they've moved on in the past. Brandon Smith being one of them. So it's not, everyone can read between the lines what they're talking about, but I don't need, it's not even enough for the integrity unit or anything to charge. But it does state the obvious, say that like Wailoa enjoys a bit of fucking fun. They're not even like, this isn't for a game or anything like that. But I think maybe Nick Politis, will say, like you said, Tans, it paints a bad image for the club. Me personally, I don't care. It shouldn't. I don't even think players should get sanctioned for anything if they're caught doing that. Obviously, if they need to take drug tests and stuff like that. But to me, that's not performance enhancing, and I really don't give a toss what players do. And advise children not to, advise other brothers out there to bring up your children the right way.
Yeah, Bob, how do you think? Because Roosters have kind of taken a strong stance to it, especially just the fact that it kind of, whether or not they're given charges, just kind of what it instigates and what it kind of says. I don't know your thoughts. Do you think anything happens to Victor, or kind of just move on if the season's done now?
I guess it all depends on how much they think this is going to bring the game into disrepute and how much the blowback will be on the Roosters club, like the negative press, the stuff that they don't want associated with their club. But unfortunately, they're a central Sydney club right in the middle of the heart of Sydney, and all the nightclubs around there with all this sort of stuff happens. But again, I don't think they're role models. Like they're athletes, they're rugby league players. If you're gonna hang them up as being a role model, then of course they're always going to disappoint you because of shit like this. But you should take them as they are. They are young men who play competitive professional sport. That's it. The only way that you should look at them is on the field as rugby league players, and the things that they do on the field is the only thing that you should look at.
That's the thing they should be learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're a young kid wanting to play rugby league, then look at them for what they do on the field. Unfortunately, these athletes, they're human, man, and they're not perfect. Like, look at to what degree the All Blacks had to go to really rein in their culture back in the days when they used to have a really, really piss poor drinking culture in the ABs, and the whole fucking Mills Mulianga pissing on bars and shit, and Doug Howlett and all of that sort of stuff that the ABs used to have until they introduced that no dickheads policy, and they had that real tight knit senior group that reined in all of those guys, because their whole idea was you're an All Black on the field and you're an All Black off the field, no matter what it is you're doing and in what environment you're in, because you're such high profile professional players. You are an All Black all the time. Unfortunately, we've got these guys in the NRL that don't have that similar sort of mindset like the ABs did, where these guys are only rugby league players on the field, but off the field, they're doing whatever the heck that they want in their private time, because that's what they feel like is their own time. But the reality is, although they're not role models, they are in the public sort of domain, and so everything they do is going to get scrutinized. You just have to look at the shit that happened with Ezra Mam and how that guy got scrutinized, so much with all of that stuff that went down. And if that was just a regular nobody gave a shit about, like, he probably would have been sent to jail, for what he did. But for some reason he escaped punishment, and now he's still playing rugby league. But again, these guys aren't role models. They're just professional athletes. And in rugby league, in the professional NRL, like, they don't have those same sort of standards like the All Blacks decided to initiate within their playing group to try and bring those standards up to such a high level, so that it was elite off the field as well as on the field. I know clubs are probably trying to emulate that sort of stuff in professional rugby league circles and rugby union, but they've still got a long way to go to try and get to that level of what the ABs did back in the early, late 2010s, I think it was. They instigated it because their All Blacks, who were elite at the time, were starting to become known for more than just their rugby, and it was starting to reflect poorly on themselves, on the All Black brand. And these are the things that Radley and Brandon Smith are probably going to have to get judged on. Like, yes, it's poor on their own characters, but then how much does it now reflect on the clubs that they play for, on Souths, on the Roosters? So that's where I think they'll mostly get judged on. And again, social media will crucify you if they don't agree with anything. But drugs, it's funny because someone like Ezra Mam, who can almost kill somebody, get absolutely rocked the way that he was. Whereas drugs, man, we've seen drug guys come and go and all of a sudden come back again. So drugs isn't really Val. You got guys like flipping, what's his name, that was at the Sharks? Who's the centre with the tattoos? He was a performance enhancing guy. I've forgotten his name. His name escapes me. But that guy, who was like, it looked like he was going to be banned for life, and then next minute he came back, and now he's playing really, really good at the Sharks. So, drugs isn't really I don't think they take it too seriously in the NRL, just because we've seen other players come back from it. So, yeah, it'll probably be a news for today, and then it'll probably just get swept under the carpet after these guys get a slap on the wrist.
Choice, boys. Thank you. Let's get into a season wrap. Teams that gone from our elimination finals. We'll kick off first with the Roosters. They probably were on a lot of people's top 8 early in the season. As much as they lost a lot of talent last year with Swali leaving, Joey Manu, Jared. So I think there was always thoughts that they were going to struggle, but I think most saw with the talent they still had, returning with Sammy Walker and that, they should still make the 8. And they almost saw what they did. They actually did make the 8 and then kind of went out. So for me, kind of with a disrupted year, like kind of a lot of changes, Marky Mark was an inspiration for them. Toya, like getting an origin call up. I think they did real well in replacing some of the talent they lost, especially Marky Mark to replace someone like Wali was always going to be a huge hole. Yeah, and that combination, like, who knows what they do next year, but Sammy Walker looks like he's finally learned to lead that team. So it's going to be interesting what they do with next year. BCE actually does come in. But yeah, I think Roosters get a pass, but yeah, for the talent they have, we'll talk about the wires later. You know, I think Andrew Webster's done amazing. Like, if you look at player for player, like what, yeah, Robinson was working compared to Webby. I think Webby's done a better job. That's kind of my wrap of the Roosters. Good season for them. I think they can only go up. So that everyone kind of thought they were going to drop. They'll still make it. It shows the class of these teams that are kind of used to being at this level. You guys thought?
Yeah, so it's I thought it was a pretty successful year for the Roosters, given the fact they really only had Sam Walker for a quarter of the year. So you know, you could say that for a few other teams like the Eels, but Sam Walker just the attacking threat he is in the halves. Does a lot to unleash the Roosters, because they're outside of him, they're real kind of like a power game offloader with Tedesco bumping around and support around the ruck area. But I think with Walker and Savala for next year, this pack give them another off season to grow, and so I thought probably Nofahu White was their player of the year. Pretty exciting times for the Kiwis if he maintains his form. He's had a sicky year, but you look at that, the rest of the pack, that's on paper pretty top quality. Liang Yu, Collins starting. It's really an exciting prospect for Samoa. I think we've seen. I know nothing about the background of this kid, but just based on his name, Benaya Yoelu, bro, we'll slip him straight in there at hooker if he wants to put up his hand, because he's been pretty sharp. But I don't know. You know, Wong off the bench, that's pretty solid. So they'll be looking. I think they'd be kind of disappointed not to go the whole way. Next year's going upon the question about, you know, where do you fit in DCE if the rumors are true, if he's going over there. But yeah, man, always every year, bro, they always pose a threat. Well, they're probably not on that top 3 teams that can win it. I thought it's pretty solid as usual. Another year for the Roosters.
Yeah, I suppose you could give them a pass because they made the 8 again this year, but they were second last year on the ladder, the Roosters, and so it's a big drop to finish 8th. And I think part of that reason is Sam Walker. Like, not having Sam Walker for the majority of the season was a massive loss for the Roosters, and you saw his influence when he came back. He was very much like Mitch Moses at the Eels. Like, when the Eels were without Mitch, they were terrible, and as soon as Mitch comes back from injury, man, they were beating teams, including the Roosters, and they're like that round 25 clash where they beat them 30 points. But it was those games that were very winnable for the Roosters early on that they ended up losing, and so like that first half of the season, you know, the Roosters were losing games to like the Titans. They lost to like an injury-ravaged Rabbitohs. They lost a close one to the Tigers halfway through the year by like 2 points. So there were some games that they could have probably won, and then taken those points and probably could have finished higher up on the ladder. I guess they made the 8, and so it was a pass. They'd probably be a bit disappointed because it was 1-1 against the Sharks during the season. Like they beat them, like they thrashed the Sharks earlier on, round 12. It was like 42-16, and then they went down 31-18 a few weeks back in round 20. So this was like this is the decider to see who wins, and I'm sure the Roosters would have preferred to have won this one and lost both of the early round games. They just weren't able to fire anything, it felt like, in that finals game last week. So I don't know. They've got a big year ahead to look forward to. I agree with Simon. I thought Nafahu was amazing this year. Like, he's sort of been sitting there learning off the likes of Tokiaho when he was there earlier on. He celebrated his 50 games this year, Nafahu. And then he had big shoes to fill because Warrior Hargreaves left at the end of last year, and he had been sort of this apprenticeship role behind guys like Tokiaho, behind guys like Warrior Hargreaves. And so these are the guys that he's learning off, and he's got Lindsay Collins, he's an Origin Australian prop on the other end. So, him stepping up into that starting prop role was, big shoes to fill, but I thought he did really, really well. And they sort of used him at lock at times towards the end of the season. And that's where, like, Nafahu's played a lot when he was over here in New Zealand. He was a lock in his junior club days. The pack's looking good. I thought Noeni Tawase coming there for the Roosters was amazing for them this year. And, like, it didn't look like they missed what's his name that left? Yeah, Joe Manu. It didn't look like they really missed his impact because they had guys like Noangani with Tuasi in there, and they had guys like Rob Tua who come in on debut and just had a phenomenal year. It was just a few things that they probably could have worked on, but definitely losing Sam Walker early and then him being absent for the majority of the year and Savala having to really carry the load for that team, I think put them on the back foot. But I'd probably still give them a pass because they ended up in the 8 anyway. It was just a longer road for them to try and get to the grand final. I think they were part of that group of maybe 3 or 4 teams that were really battling it out to try and get that 8th spot. And so all of that pressure, I think, probably told on them in the end in their game against the Sharks. So, a pass mark for them, but I'm sure they'd be disappointed where they ended up.
Nice, boys. Bobby, I'll stay with you. Let's jump straight over into the WAS review of the season.
You know what? It's a pass for me because they didn't make the 8 last year, and they made the 8 this year. For the majority of the season, they were in the top 4, even though none of the media even sort of mentioned or even sort of gave them a chance. I think the Warriors probably performed over and above what probably even to their standards. I'm sure them making finals and making the 8 was their goal, but they kind of overachieved that, and they were top 4 for most of the year. And then where they ended up, I think, was a fair reflection of the year. And like the Roosters, they had games where they probably could have won, but the wheels started falling off towards the back end of the season. We lost Mitch Barnett early after the origin period, and then we lost Metcalf. And I think that was where, even though you want to keep the faith for these mix and match halves pairings, but you really do miss Luke Metcalf and the influence that he brings and his consistency. And then when you see shit like when they released that information on like the fastest players in the NRL a few weeks back by position, and it was like fastest halfback was Luke Metcalf, and I was like, yes, I already knew that. Those sniping runs that Luke would have, that he'd just get through the first and second defenders. Yeah, man, score tries. And that was the stuff that we were missing. And, Tanner Boyd had glimpses of that. Even in the Panthers, like the Panthers game in the weekend, he did a real decisive run at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
And it looked really good. And I was thinking, man, he needs to bring more of that in the second half. He brought none of that. There was no more running. It was like he forgot he could do it. And it was very Sean Johnson like, where you want Sean to vary up his game and to run,
Yeah.
and then it's that same sort of vibe, right, where he didn't offer any sort of variety. I guess the only good thing for Tanner Boyd and compared to Sean Johnson is that he wasn't yelling or growling at all his teammates after a mistake or a drop ball, because you often used to see Sean Johnson do that during games. It's positive for next year because hopefully we'll have Metcalf back. We'll have all of these guys who've had finals experience now this year. We've blooded a whole lot of forwards because of Mitch Barnett's injury, because of guys who've sort of been out with injury during the season, like Marata Niukore, and then you've had to bring in those young guys and give them more minutes. So Leka's definitely been one of the highlights for the Warriors this year. Dimitric's been another one, and they've been able to sort of blood and give more minutes to guys like Eddie Yeremia Tuava at the end of the season, and that other Tana, Stella Smith. You know, he's pretty no nonsense. It doesn't look like he offers any sort of second phase, but he reminds me and plays a lot similar to Isaiah Papali'i when he was at the Warriors, where he just sort of carted the ball up and didn't sort of do much else, but he was very efficient at just carting the ball up. And if we can get Tana to do that, and that's all he does, that's fine for me, so long as he's making 10, 15 meters every carry. But yeah, like the dynamic playing of Leka and of Dimitric and the way that those young boys took to first grade rugby league this year, it's promising signs for the Warriors in the coming seasons, because if they lock in Luke Metcalf as a young half, as a half as skillful as he is, off the back of a pack with young bulls like Leka and Dimitric in it, man, I thought the player, for me, there were two players. The back of the year definitely was Roger. He was outstanding with his carries back from the try line, and every time he would carry the ball back, he'd always carry it with interest. And the forward for me was Aaron Clark. Like, that guy was the buy of the season for the Warriors, and I really wanted him to score a try during the season, but I guess he's got to run around with his undies and all those other guys that didn't score during the season. I don't think he did. So yeah, Aaron Clark was such a, you knew what he had done at the Titans, and you thought, better come see, come sa, when they signed him last year. You weren't too sure about it. And you was like, oh, he's a bit same. We've got Dylan Walker. And then when Dylan Walker got let go to get a para after those first 4 rounds, and then Aaron Clark got more game time, and then, man, he stood up, man. And I really enjoyed watching Aaron Clark. So I hope he brings that same sort of energy next year. I really want Fisher Harris to not play so much like he's got the world on his shoulders, because he's got the captaincy. I thought he played a lot better in his role as co-captain when Mitch Barnett was there, and so hopefully when Barnett comes back and it's back to that co-captaincy role, then Fisher Harris doesn't have to worry so much and bear all of the pressure on him as being a captain. That's why in our chat earlier on in the year, I was like, man, captaincy is this guy's kryptonite. He's gone from being this amazing ass prop of the year to suddenly the guy's barely making 10 meters in carries. Yeah. Or he's like going up against his old property partner, the Bash brothers, and then he's getting bashed. So I was like, oh, he's silly. But yeah, I reckon they did. It was a pass mark for me because they made the top 8 this year after disappointing last year, because last year was disappointing after the success of 2023 when Up the Waz was sort of born, right? So yeah, it was disappointing into the season, but there's promising things ahead for the Warriors, looking at the young talent that they were able to bring in this year. And shout out to the New South Wales Cup team as well. Even though they lost to St. George last weekend, they have a second life. So I forget who it is that they go up against. But yeah, they're they're on track in the finals to make the grand final if they're able to beat whoever it is that they're playing this coming weekend. So shout out to them. Shout out to the NRLW team, the Wahines. They had a good win over the Tigers as their last game of the season. So it's looking good for the club at the moment.
Nice rep, Bobby. Nice tracks there and stats on the boys as well. Payne, they've been chomping at the beat, waiting to get into the Warriors, mate.
Nah, so that was pretty spot on, bro. I agree. It's a definite pass mark. Yeah, I would even give them like a 8 out of 10. You know, like A minus, because at one stage, about halfway through the comp, I thought they carried the comp for a bit there. One of the better teams. It's just the way they finished. They're pretty disappointed. The last 3 or was not only the last 3 weeks with the losses, but there was from the St. George game. There was 3 losses earlier. They pretty much the last 8 to 10 games only won twice. So that'd be disappointing. But looking at the just overall, I thought probably the injury that hit the most was the Warriors and Luke Metcalf. Both him and Mitch Barnett, they're probably crucial to why they couldn't go the extra mile, especially when they lost that top 4 spot. I just thought with Boyd there, he's got a decent kicking game, but the halves kind of got found out. The forwards, they toiled. They're pretty solid. I don't think Fisher Harris is the same Fisher Harris we saw at Panthers yet. But even with him, and you touched on it, Bobby, he would be a different beast to that pack with Mitch Barnett in it, because Mitch Barnett, he likes to take those one or two hit ups, first up. But yeah, we haven't seen the best of Fisher Harris, bro, and I think with their pack, sometimes it can get a bit same like looking tall robots with Capewell, Neil Corder. I actually think Neil Corder should be play in the middle, come off the bench or something, and have Lecker closer in second row, because they can definitely add a different brand of rugby. Just offloading game on the edges, with early ball, but definitely the way they ended the season on offense, they struggled a bit. Like you said, Roger, definitely. I think going for next year, there'll probably be a few spots up for grab in that back line. I don't know. What do you guys think? Zalesniak, he was pretty pedestrian in some of those tries that come down his wing this year. He needs a good, decent off season and needs to start the year well. But there's always talent coming in from back home, males, but they need that spine together. Egan needs to stay on there, and Metcalf needs to play both the whole year next year for them to be a threat. But yes, been a sicky year, man. Should be the sport should be proud.
Thank you, Uso. Yeah, I think both of you real good points. I'll probably back you up on that Aaron Clark or Bob. I think for myself, the loss of Tohu Harris, I think that was going to be a huge impact, and probably one of my biggest reps probably goes to Aaron Clark. I don't know if there's the awards coming up, but yeah, I'd be surprised if he's not Players Player or Fans Player of the Year, because man, he's just
good call. Yeah, he probably put his hand up for 13 of the year.
I reckon he was real solid, and I think we were going to lose a lot. He wasn't Tohu, he didn't ball play, but just the effort and the work he did, especially in defense, saved us a lot of times. So, a pass mark. Real happy with the season. We stated all those injuries that probably didn't get us over the line. Next year. All right, boys. I was going to do a wrap of the games that were, but we'll probably touch on them as we preview The other games, we already mentioned that awesome Canberra Raiders game, and the Broncos. We can touch more on that because I guess leading into this week, the team that was rubbing their hands on Sunday was the Sharks. Like whoever came out of that amazing game, but very very long game, is going to be struggling this week. And Ricky got his wish, so I don't know. It's a bit Pakamala on that because he's the one who pushed for the Sunday game to make it a successful at GIO, so they could get every advantage they could. And of course, they let Ricky do what Ricky wants. But this was the risk they told him. Like, we give you the Sunday game. If you lose, you'll play with a short turnaround. Yeah, that's what he gets. So Ricky's Raiders coming back off a hard one, taking on the Sharks, who look real positive away. So they're away from Shark Park, but I don't think they mind the small park down the GIO. Your thoughts, Bobby?
Yeah, I don't know. Ricky Stewart's got a super tough job this week of trying to get his team to refocus. Like, losing the game would have been one thing, but the way they lost and how that game was super winnable. They were ahead by heaps with like 15 minutes to go. They had that 12 against 11 man advantage. All of those things that were in Canberra's favour. And then to just get dismantled the way that they did by the Broncos, by Reece Walsh, towards the end of that game. And then the way that it ended, like that playing group will be super gutted that they don't get the week off and that they have to now refocus in 6 days to try and get their mindset back into the challenge against the Sharks. It's going to be an uphill battle for them, I feel, and the flip side of that is you've got the Sharks who are now buoyed by the fact that they beat a really, really competitive Roosters team. And people would probably, I think the people had written off the Warriors first, and then had probably written off the Sharks second because of the way that the Roosters has sort of come into the top 8 and the kind of footy that they were playing was super strong football. And the Sharks kind of, similar to the Warriors, kind of just limped into the top 8. Like they had some really poor games, like inconsistent showings from the whole team, but mainly from Nico Hines. Like he was up and down a bit in those last few regular season rounds. So it's going to be an uphill battle for them, even though for the Raiders that is, even though they're playing at home. It's that mental fatigue of that short turnaround. That holy shit, we should have won that game. We should have won that game. Like the ability of the coach to try and get the mindset of these players and forget about the Broncos loss to now refocus on, they're a rejuvenated Sharks team. Like Adam Finau-Blake was the freaking man against the Roosters, and he was playing like the Warriors, Adam Finau-Blake last week, and his carries and like just getting Nico Hines some front foot ball, like he was a beast added in that game. And so in order for the Raiders to get over the Sharks, I reckon they need to really neutralize Adam Finau-Blake up front. He's a real, again, we chuck around that word talismanic, but he's become that player for the Sharks. It took him a little while to get into that role, and you saw glimpses of his Warriors form throughout the year. But last week, man, he was the man, and he carried them through to that victory against the Roosters. And so, tough one to call, man. Tough one to call. But I feel like the Sharks just have that momentum on their side. And, Ricky can make me eat my words, but yeah, I don't know. Like they've come up the high of being minor premiers, and then the high of, hey man, 15 minutes to go, we're gonna beat this Broncos outfit, to then lose the way that they lost is
In front of their home crowd.
Yeah, in front of their home crowd. Like, man, if you rewatch some of that footage and you see Ricky jumping around the way he did, only for victory to get snatched away from him Sorry, mate. It's not.
Not once, but twice.
Not once. But twice. Yeah, man. So I think that whole mental side of it is going to be too much because Ricky's one of those coaches that wears his heart on his sleeve, man. And so he even mentioned it at the press conference that it was his job now to try and turn the boys around to get them ready for the Sharks. And I just feel like that might be a bridge too far for them. Like it just has that feeling again. Ricky, make me eat my words because I actually want the Raiders to win this game, but I feel like the Sharks are on a roll. Like they're starting to sort of get momentum into these finals, and it's going to be a close one, but I'm picking the Sharks.
Sorry, your thoughts on
that's an upset, Oos. Damn, no flowers for the Raiders. I'm going to go for the Raiders on this one. I think they're due, definitely due. But Sharks are very straight up and down with their forwards. I don't see them doing anything too different other than just carting the ball up. And with the Raiders, I see a bit more footy in the Raiders team. For one, they're not going to get bullied by anyone. I thought the Broncos pack did a really good job. On their team because Papali'i, Tapine, Starling, he kind of cleaned us up early in the game. Tom Starling with his quick darts around the ruck. So they're definitely a team that can find their front, get quick ball. I think Raiders have, they scored 28 points, bro, on the Broncos. And let's be honest, without Reece Walsh, Broncos aren't winning that game. So they definitely get their fair share of the ball. I think maybe where they're vulnerable, probably on the edges, probably in amongst that, two men out, guys with Timoko and Tamale on the edge there that the Broncos were able to get a few tries down that way. But I don't know. I don't see the Sharks. If they can nullify the forwards, then Hines and Trindle make it hard for them. I just think there's too much in the Raiders, especially home game, to really. And they've probably been the most consistent team, and the best team all year. So, they ain't winning twice in a row. I don't think. I'm picking the Raiders.
Ooh. Nice. I'm actually gonna probably side with Bobby. I think that game was just a lot for the Ricky's boys. And yeah, like just how much pride he has in the way they play, and he really gets up for them. And I think just that celebration, like it's so much of a high, especially to snatch the victory twice. I think that there's a lot for them to take mentally. He's still got some champions there, he's got Palii, but there is a lot of young guys doing this for the first time in that team. And so I think a lot of them are riding Ricky's coattails for the experience on how they navigate this. So I think that's probably one thing that's going to let them down. Sharks as well, like they haven't been, all the way, but they've got some guys there with a lot of big game experience and doing it, deep into these back end as well. So I think what we saw with the Raiders, like especially the space they found behind the ruck of the Broncos, they're not going to find that with the Sharks. But I think they will encounter those same problems that Reece Walsh, because they've got a classy backline. Trindle, when he starts to own it and work in there, we'll find. Another tough one for the Raiders. I think just off the back of last week, I think if it was if the Broncos blew them out of the park ordinary time, they'd be able to regroup and come back strong. But I think mentally, but as well as physically, like that was a long game. It takes a toll. Like Papa only I think he had one training run before that game, and he was awesome. But it was more, again, just trying to lead the way out of being Papa. So the body takes a toll from such a long game. Yep, I'm going with Sharks for the upset on this one. It's going to be a big game. Sharks. the other game, we'll move straight into it. Doggies and the Panthers. The Doggies, taking on the Storm last week. Man, I don't know. Like once Critter went, like I think the Dogs did well trying to scramble and regroup, and it looked like they might have got it too. Like just the work Matt Burton did there when he kind of moved into the half. I think he ended up center. The changes they've made, I think they're good. Like I like Toby Sexton in there, and like it seems to work well with Galvin. So maybe them starting with this. They get Bronson Jerry back, but yeah, I think Critter is such a huge out for them, especially coming up against the Panthers. I think normal round robin game. I think they put up a fight, but yeah, I think with the class of the Panthers after last week as well, like they weren't getting it their own way. Like their defense from the Warriors, like I think that's that the Doggies pride themselves on is that defense. I think if anything, the Doggies are going to take a lot of notes from what the Warriors did on the weekend because they were driving the Panthers back there. The Panthers like to make that contact and get front of the wall, or they'll try and push, get the first contact and make the offload. But they had no chance to do any of that. The Warriors are hitting, sticking, and driving. And I think the Doggies will bring more of that. And I think the Panthers will be ready for it. But I think, if anything, they'll probably help the Panthers last week. With some of those guys returning. It all looks like the injuries that he had been carrying for a lot of the season seem to be gone. And that combination in there will be a tough one. Like I don't know. Again, I look at the Doggies, like when they started doing all their little stuff, just faster. Like they were at the top of the table, sitting pretty, and then they go and start looking at this thing with Galvin, and then things start to go wrong, and now Critter's injured. So yeah, I'm going the Panthers, and I think the Panthers might start looking scary every game that they win. Like they're going the long way. We'll see how they go, but yeah, I'm tipping the Panthers for this one. So come back.
Yeah, mate. I'm the same. I think they've botched it. I actually like this look with Galvin and Sexton in the halves, but this is too little, too late, man. These two should have had a bit more time together. In the halves, and not that Burton was a bad six, but Burton's so good that you can still have Matt Burton, but one off. But like you said, tons. Without Critter there, it's hard to go back, go past the Panthers. I feel like forwards maybe they can cancel each other out, but with the back line there with Cleary, and he was the biggest difference. Let's be honest. Last week, he kicked the Warriors to death there and really applied the blowtorch when they got into an arm wrestle. Yeah, it'll be a close game, but I just think, especially on attack, I don't know, they might prove me wrong, but I don't think Sexton and Galvin are experienced enough to outdo Cleary on especially on an occasion like this, which basically do or die. One team moves on, the other made Monday, so Panthers, but not by much, bro. Could come down to drop goals. 4 and under.
Yeah, it's interesting because both teams they've named extended benches, and they're probably giving both. For the Panthers, I think it's Mitch Kenny, and for the Doggies, it's Critter and Montoya. They've got. They're probably giving them every chance to try and get better to make this game. But I don't know, man. Like the way Critter limped off and the way he was so lame after that leg injury that he picked up, I don't know if a week is enough. And I think the Panthers are probably just a bit hopeful too that Mitch Kenny will be right in time for the game. But yeah, I agree with the Galvin effect, man, it's having a really negative impact on the doggies. As talented a player as he is, just the way that he was introduced and how it upset the way that the doggies were playing at the time, and they were like flying, man, at first on the ladder, and they looked untouchable. Like nobody looked like, and it's Bronson Cherry, the guy's name that escaped me before. He used to play for the Sharks, but now he's at the doggies. Yeah. But yeah, Matt Burton at centre, like he's probably a good replacement for Critter, should Critter not come right. But yeah, I'm with Si on this one. Like I don't think that Lockie Galvin Sexton combination in the halves is enough to upset Nathan Cleary, who's stable, he's level-headed, he's been there, done that, and then Blaise Talangi, you've got this like youthful experience. This guy just wants to go out there and impress. Like him and Lockie Galvin probably cancel each other out with their youth and their wanting to be creative, similar sort of styles. But Cleary and Sexton, like, yeah, I give credit to Sexton coming on last weekend, and in his first touch he scores a try, albeit a really fortunate one. But him against Cleary, like Cleary is head and shoulders, probably even stomach, chest, head, shoulders above what Sexton brings to the doggies. And, they're on a roll, man. The Panthers, they just needed to get over that first bump, which was the Warriors. This is the first time in years, in their probably the last 5 years, where they've had to try and, make a play and make a run for the grand final from so low down in the top 8. So, this is foreign territory for them, but they've got the class to do it. And you saw it last week, how they dismantled the Warriors in the end. I have a feeling that they're going to pounce on the doggies, who are injury ravaged after that game with the Storm last week. So I don't think. I think this might be the end of the doggy season, and the Penrith train is just going to roll on. And I hate to say it because, man, I really want someone to upset Penrith this year, but yeah, it looks like they might. I think they've met the doggies at a really fortunate time without their, instrumental, talismanic, inspirational captain and Critter. The doggies are probably going to go down to the Panthers, and I hate to say it, but yeah, sucks.
Nice, boys. Man, only 2 more games for this week, and then we roll right on. The New South Wales Cup, Bobby, you were saying it's the Eels they take on this week. I think they smashed him a couple of times earlier in the season as well. So, all the best to the New South Wales Cup team. All right, boys. Any final words, Bobby?
No, but again, I'd like to wish Caleb's Akarana Falcons team good luck this weekend. They take on the Bay of Plenty team down in Rotorua in their NRL senior men's competition. They had a good win last week against the Waikato team, and I think the County Smarako team took out the Falcons up here in Papakura they played. So that's all going on at the moment. So we'll be road tripping down to Rotorua to watch Caleb's game this weekend. But yeah, good luck to all the teams this week.
Hey, thanks, Usos. I was going to send some love out to the travelling Kuma Crushers rugby union team under 12s from over here in the Gold Coast. They started their tour on Tuesday, they gone down to Taupo for the global games there for this weekend, starting tomorrow for 3 days. So good luck to all the participants. But yeah, special shout out to Kenan and his under 12s Kuma Crushers rugby union tour. Special occasion for these kids over here, growing up on the GC. Also, just a team full of Māoris and Pacific Islanders born and raised over here, bro. So a good opportunity for these kids to learn, where their parents are from. A lot of us moved over from NZ, so big ups to them, and God bless them, keep them safe until they come back over here. So thanks, Usos. Siki roundables.
Nice, boys. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the 135 Footy Show. Please go check us out on all socials. Like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm, find us. Thank you for your comments. And stay tuned. 2 more weeks, so look forward to it. Okay, boys, and we'll catch up next week.